Hi, I'm Roshaunda Cade. This is Real and Raw with Roshaunda. I've been trying to tell my doctoral story, and in case I forget, I want to hear your doctoral story too. Um, if you have a doctorate in something and you have a story to tell about how you got from not having your doctorate to how you have it, post something in the comments so we can hear about it and know what's going on with you. So I've been telling myself this story a lot with lots of different versions and different starting places because it's interesting to me. So this one begins with kindergarten. I went to kindergarten twice. The first time around, I went because I was precocious. And the second time around, I went because I wasn't socially adjusted to be a first grader. At least that's how my mom tells the story. So I don't remember a lot about the first time I went to kindergarten. I know that it was a Jewish school and there was a big boat in the playground and that I really enjoyed playing on the big boat. And I just realized the other day that the big boat was probably Noah's Ark. So I don't know what that says about me that I didn't figure that out until just now. But that was what I remember about my first time going to kindergarten. But my second time going to kindergarten made a much more lasting impression. So I went to kindergarten back in the days of half day kindergarten, and I was an afternoon kindergarten student, which meant I got to spend the mornings with my mom. If you know my mom, you know you never know what you will do in a day. You might wake up to chores all day long. You might wake up to going to Montgomery Ward and getting a box of popcorn and a bag of maple nut goodies. You might go roller skating. You might go on a nature walk. You never know what you might do in a day spent with my mom. You might dig for coins in mud in tin cans filled with mud, or she might get tired of you and tell you to go practice holding your breath. And so I fell for that every time. Go practice holding your breath. Okay. So I spent my mornings with my mom, and then we had lunch, and lunch was always something good. And I often got to have a cup of apple juice, which is the holy grail for a kindergartner. And then she walked me to school. And so I went to school and met my kindergarten teacher. And I don't know if she didn't like me. My mom said she was probably just drunk and unhappy. But from my perspective, I didn't understand what was going on because I could read. I had been reading for years, actually, by the time I went to kindergarten. I don't remember this myself, but when I was two, my brother sat me down and taught me how to read because he didn't want me to be dumb. And I appreciate that. I've been reading ever since. So I walked into kindergarten knowing how to read and was an avid reader, and we had reading to do, and I did it. And I always finished it early and I always asked for more. So she sent me home every afternoon with reading material and told me to read it at home and come back the next day and tell her about it. So I took the material, I read it at home, I came back the next day and I told her about it. And every single day she was like, "You didn't read that. Your parents read that to you and you just memorized the story." No, I read it myself. And I was like, "Would you like me to read it for you?" "No, you can't read." Oh, I'm 5. And this woman doesn't believe I can read. And I'm like, I can read. I like to read. I'm good at reading. And she didn't believe my vocabulary. Like I was using words correctly. And she was like, "You don't know that word." "Excuse me, ma'am. I just used the word in a sentence and used it correctly." "Why, yes, I do know that word." But she was the bane of my existence, right? As a little 5-year old, 5, 6-year old kindergartner. And I was distraught. I mean, I enjoyed school. She didn't, take the joy out of everything for me. But I would go home and I would talk to my mom. And it's not like my dad wasn't around. He really was. But I just really remember my mom in this instance. Anyway, I would go home and I would tell my mom, and she would be like, "You know what? You just do you. You know how to read. It doesn't matter if she believes you know how to read or not, because your knowledge of reading is going to come out eventually. You just do you and you write your own story. That's what she said to me. Probably not those exact words. I was 5 or 6. I don't really remember. But I remember that was the feeling that I got from her. Now, on the back end, I imagine she went up to school and raised a ruckus. I'm sure she had conversations with my teacher and my principal, the school board, the superintendent, I don't know, but I am positive she talked with somebody about this teacher telling her daughter that she didn't believe she knew how to read. So why am I telling you all this? Because in kindergarten, I knew how to read and I loved to do it. And I had somebody telling me, no, you can't do that. That's not who you are. And I had my mom saying, it doesn't matter that they say that's not who you are. You get to say who you are. And that has stayed with me. I've had a lot of people tell me, no, that's not who you are. I had one mentor tell me that there was no way I was ever going to get a PhD. I had several fallings out with people in my graduate school department. And like, maybe I'm a horrible person. I don't know. Maybe I attracted these things to myself. I'm not sure why, but I had to remember back to kindergarten when my mom was like, write your own story. And today my mom would say, make your own lane. And that is what she has done. We had a whole conversation about that actually, probably a year or so ago, that I was asking her how she made it through so many difficult things that she's faced in life. And she was like, I've always been in my own lane. She's like, it doesn't matter what's happening in other people's lanes, just what's happening in your lane. So I'm trying to make my own lane. I tried to make my own lane while working on my dissertation. I worked on a topic that not nobody, but people didn't really understand what I was looking at. I was looking at the 1850s moment and how slave women manipulated race and gender to find freedom for themselves and their children. And coming at it with the sense that moms are superheroes. It doesn't matter if they're slaves, it doesn't matter if they're Black. Moms will do what they need to do what's best for their kids. And I saw it play out in the literature of the 1850s. So I talked about that in my dissertation, which was probably kind of weird, but it was interesting to me. So it's what I did. And even now, I'm trying to create my own lane. I've not had any sort of a traditional academic career. I've run writing centers, I've done adjunct teaching. Maybe that is more traditional. I've not had a tenure track position. And now I'm going around seeking other people who have doctorates and no, are trying to think about what they're doing with their lives or helping people who are on the road to having doctorates and what they can do with their lives. So clearly my story segued from my doctoral story. I got I got interested in something else and got sidetracked. But that's how stories go. If you have long enough, you'll get to where you're going. And where you're going is never the finish point, right? Like the story keeps going. That's why I have so many stories of my doctoral story. There are stories within stories within stories. I'm digging the stories these days, y'all. So I guess that's all for now. It started off scripted. I'm way off script now. I'm not even sure where I was supposed to end up, but that's what you get when you get real and raw with people. So, what about you? How are you writing your own story? What lane have you made for yourself? Where are you on your journey? Type in the comments and share with us and let us know. I'm Roshaunda Cade, and this is Real and Raw with Roshaunda.